Hey everyone, it's just Dr. Andrew Orr speaking. Today I wanted to talk a little bit about pre and probiotics and why they are so important for us in so many factors, not only our gut health, our immune health, but we also know that pre and probiotics are now part of our brain health as well, our psychological well-being as well, just due to the gut-brain axis. And both can affect each other. We know when this is not quite right, or high emotions, high stress, then that can affect the gut. And if the gut bacteria and everything's not right, it can affect the brain as well. But we also know that when we get too much bad bacteria, as I've explained in other posts as well, this is called dysbiotic bacteria, that can lead to bloating and it can lead to inflammation in the body. Now that inflammation then can exacerbate many other health issues. And we always say that everything always starts in the gut. And while, some conditions may not be caused from the gut and these, not so much the bacteria, if we get too much bad bacteria, which leads to more inflammation, it's definitely going to exacerbate inflammatory conditions. And it's something that we really, really need to talk about more often. The other thing, it's poorly understood, is that a lot of people will go out and buy probiotics, right? So they'll head off to the chemist and they'll buy probiotics, and a lot of them are mixed strains and things like that. And a lot of strains of probiotics actually don't do anything. And so it's very important to have strain-specific bacteria. And this is why it's very important to talk to someone that knows about bacteria and strain-specific bacteria. The other thing I see a lot of is that even with a lot of practitioners, our healthcare practitioners, don't even use prebiotics and wouldn't even know what a prebiotic was. They're giving people probiotics. But prebiotics are very important because they're the food source to make the good bacteria grow. Now, bad bacteria, as I've spoken about before, grows off things like sugars and highly refined processed foods and highly refined carbohydrates and things like that. And that's what makes them grow. So even like alcohol. But then certain medications disrupt your bacteria and then your emotions. People forget that stress and moods and all that can affect your bacteria and stuff like that as well. Now, the one thing I'm seeing at the moment is that we're getting all these people ready. It's the new year, right? So they want to go and lose weight, or they want to drop. And I always, tonight, talk about weight. It's more about dropping body fat, not weight, because the more lean muscle that you have, the better it is for your body. But you get on the scales, and when you've got more lean muscle, it's going to weigh more. So scales are irrelevant. The best thing people can do is get out the good old tape measure. We've all seen the ads before about people, the walking down the tape measure and stuff like that. But the best thing is from the belly button. So stand up, belly button around, and that's where you measure from, straight around, not up here, because some people are actually quite thin up here. And they've got a belly down there. That's not your waist up here. So we go around from the belly button area straight around. So a woman's waist size should be around about 80 centimeters or below to keep you out of that high inflammatory process. And a man should be about 94 centimeters or below to be in your healthy waist range. So forget weight. That's what I tell people, forget weight. Don't get on the scales, because a lot of people will end up going to the gym and putting on muscle, and they'll go, I'm putting on weight. Well, you should be, because you're putting on muscle. Well, you should be putting on muscle. And the other thing I tell people with weight loss is that sometimes when they're doing weight loss, they're actually losing muscles by whichever weight loss method they're doing. And that's not good either. And then all that's been left behind is the bad fats, and then they rebound, and it's just as worse. So the reason I just added that in is that we've got people doing all the fad diets at the moment. There's all the influencers on there, and we're doing 6-week challenge, 12-week challenge, God knows how many challenges. But the one thing that's never spoken of, it's always about diet, diet, diet. The other thing that's never spoken about enough of is that we need the healthy bacteria in there as well. And we forget about how gut health, because I see a lot of people will go and do the weight loss or fat loss, as I like to say it, and they'll get to a point and then they plateau. And then they just go in and then not going anywhere. And a lot of the times that's just due to their gut not working properly, and also bad habits creeping back in, of course. I always say it's like anything, they'll do it for about 3 months and then the bad habits creep in. And it does take 21 days to maintain a good habit. So this is why to get any sort of dietary stuff working, it's around about 21 days. But the reason why a lot of them plateau is because they don't have enough beneficial bacteria. And now science does back that up, that if you really want to working with the gut and your metabolism and your immune system and help with weight loss and things like that, plus all the anti-inflammatory side of good bacteria, you have to put the good bacteria in. Now, I always talk about you need to clear the dysbiotic bacteria out, so I call that a proper microbiome restore, and I offer that to nearly all my patients. I think it needs to be done for everyone, because everyone's gut, especially in the Western civilization, needs a good overhaul for sure. And even you can be a fat, skinny person. You can actually be quite a slim person but have too much excess body fat. And body fat in itself is inflammatory, and we call them obestrogens now because it has estrogenic properties, which are endocrine disruptors, and adds to more inflammation, can affect your hormones and all that kind of stuff as well. And that's why we know that increased body fat is, people with increased body fat have increased levels of cancers and stuff like that as well. So we have to do the pre and probiotics, and it's got to be done properly. So we've got to weed out the dysbiotic bacteria first, and then we've got to lay down a foundation of what we call prebiotic bacteria. And I explain it here, like here, in your intestines. And so where the dysbiotic bacteria are in here, we've got to clear them out. Then we've got to lay down a foundation of the prebiotic bacteria first, and then you've got to repair your gut lining. So the gut lining, often a lot of people have what we call leaky gut syndrome, or they have some form of inflammation or impairment through that gut mucosa barrier here, and you repair that with certain amino acids and things like that. And then, only then, when you put down cleared and repaired and so forth, then you put the probiotics in. But they need to be strain specific bacteria for that person. That's why it needs to be done individually. Because one bacteria, like if you've got inflammatory bowel issues, you might need a bacteria called 299V, which is the plantarum strain. Or if you have a yeasty, lots of yeast infections, you might need one of the other strains as well, the Bilardi strain. So it's about knowing these things, and a lot of people don't, and they don't use it. And also prebiotics on their own are actually anti-inflammatory. You can see in here, if you can't read it properly, I'll put up the references to it as well. There are some references there about prebiotics being anti-inflammatory as well. But then we also now know that there's about 8 strains of bacteria that actually are very beneficial for people. So there's becoming more and more that we know. So just like we have the species dog, we have different strains of dog. Well, it's the same with bacteria. We have different strains of bacteria, and they all do something. Like some strains, some of those fermented strains, like those brands out there on the market that you're drinking, they actually don't do anything at all. Some of those fermented ones can actually make you worse. They're full of sugar, and they could be adding to your dysbiotic bacteria. So it's very important to know what you're doing. So I tell people that when you use clinically proven probiotics that work, and you've got to have the research behind them, and so you can't just go in there and get whatever. And this is why it's important that if you're going to start out on some challenge, or you're just trying to get healthy, or you're trying to help with a long-term inflammatory condition, you really have to restore the microbiome first. It is so important, and there's now lots of research to back it up. And I've talked about this on my microbiome restore that I do with people as well, and the reasons being. But if you're about to start off on some of these challenges and weight loss, before you spend any money, I'll always tell you, go and get your gut right first so that you get the best benefit out of it. The other thing is, like anything, you've got to move your body. If you're trying to lose weight, but even just for general health, you need to move your body, increase the circulation. Burning, you've got to burn fat, and to do that, you've got to use resistance. So walking and things like that are great. They're great for aerobic activity. They're great for getting your lung, respiratory function and all that, and things like that. But you need to push against the resistance if you want to build lean muscle. So you have to do a combination of both. You can't just get on a walker and think that you're going to become fit and you're going to get these bulging muscles. You can't do that. And you'll lose a little bit of it, but nothing's going to burn fat like resistance work. Now, you have to find some form of resistance work that benefits you, because some people, might have a background, might be able to do a lot of the heavy, weights and things like that. But that's why it's always important to find a good trainer that can work with you, or a good healthcare professional that can actually set out some exercises that can benefit you. We see someone with a back condition might be better off going to a Pilates reformer, where you're working against a resistance, but you're also working on core, and you're under the instruction, not one of those big classes, I mean under the instruction of a Pilates instructor who's doing one-on-one, or might be doing small groups. So that might be, or you might go and do a circuit class for the people that don't really like lifting heavy weights, and you might do a circuit class where you're still working with some weights, but you're working with someone that will have intervals for you, or like interval training, high intensity interval training could be used as well. Or if you are going to go to the weights, maybe use a trainer for a while to show you how to push properly and do exercises properly, straighten your back when you're doing squats and so forth, and not be slouched over and then cause yourself injuries, and not going too hard. And remember, everything is step by step by step by step, little steps. Nothing happens overnight. And so I just sort of come on and talk a little bit about that, throw in a little bit of the other stuff. But the main issue here, when it all comes back to it all, if you're going to start to lose weight, or you're trying to get on the health kick this year, and you really want to do a health kick, it all starts in the gut, and it all starts with pre and probiotics. I'll talk soon.